Welcome to KCXU 92.7 FM on your dial, San Jose, California.
Welcome to the maiden voyage of our Student Voice in San Jose educational program on KCXU 92.7. My name is Bill Conrad, and I will be your host for this bi-weekly 30-minute program that will explore ideas and issues of interest to the students within San Jose. Our first interview will be with our student guest, Lydia Jungkind, an international student from Germany. Lydia will share with us her thoughts about education in Germany and the United States from her unique perspective as an international student going to schools within Germany and the United States. As Alexis de Tocqueville, a 19th century French historian, told us and provided us with great insights into American democracy, similarly, we hope that Lydia will provide us with some really great insights into American education today. Welcome to our first ever Student Voice in San Jose radio program, Lydia.
Hi, thank you for having me.
What brought you to the U.S. as an international student from Germany? Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Well, yes, of course. So I was always very interested in American history and, of course, the English language, and it was one of my favorite subjects in school. And coming from a very small village myself, I thought it would be a great experience for me to, just go out into the world and have kind of a different experience. And my major now in college is also political science, and I think studying that in the US these days is very interesting and very beneficial.
And so how did you hear about the opportunity to come to the United States? What led you to that path?
Well, in Germany, it's actually very common to do like a year abroad, especially after high school or study abroad. We have a lot of options within the European Union, but also within the United States. And it's something that in my experience, more Europeans do than Americans, just go to live somewhere else in a different country that speaks a different language. So it's actually kind of not that unusual.
In Germany, right?
Yeah.
So how would you compare the quality of your educational experience in Germany with that in the United States?
Well, I think the main difference between the systems is that Germany, it's very performance oriented, while in the US, it's more about community. For example, your schools have sports teams and all that. And in Germany, we get separated into 3 different kinds of schools after 4th grade. So by 10 years old, when you're 10 years old, it's kind of being decided whether you will go to university or not, because only when you go to the so-called gymnasium, you can get into a university with that A levels. So that's a big difference in my experience.
So what was the curriculum like in Germany compared with the United States in terms of, let's say, math or English? Were they similar?
No, I would say at least for me going to the gymnasium, the level was much higher. And we had a lot more subjects too. For example, in 10th grade, we had 14 subjects. And that's a lot. So the variety of what we were being taught. So the general education, it's much more widespread in Germany, and the curriculum is a lot more diverse.
And you'd mentioned earlier to me about, let's say, math, that by 9th grade, you're studying trigonometry in Germany.
Yes. It's very challenging, especially math. And for the A levels, we had to do 4-hour math exams. So that was quite the challenge.
So you felt when you came here that you were fully prepared in terms of your content background for study in the United States. You didn't really have any trouble assimilating into the United States system?
Well, besides all of it being in English, of course, no, I think it was manageable for me, at least.
And what is the teaching and learning like when, in terms of instruction and so on? How is instruction different in Germany compared to, let's say, the United States?
Well, in Germany, it's a lot more lecturing and less, I would say, group work and the teacher lectures something and you have to apply what you just learned on further scenarios, for example. So we're kind of getting there and doing more, teamwork and group discussions and all that, but it's more strict and very rigid in some ways.
And so do you take notes kind of thing? And the classes are, how long are your average classes in Germany?
Well, one period is 45 minutes, and usually we have blocks, so 1.5 hours basically, with a 5-minute break in between.
Oh, okay. And I understand that the schedule in Germany is quite different than the schedule in the United States. With you guys end school at around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so you don't really have a lunch period?
Oh, well, yeah, sometimes, but for me, for example, it's very different. We sometimes we have a school until 1 o'clock. Sometimes we have school until, in my case, 6 p.m. at night, because I had this really long marathon day in 11th and 12th grade. So it's different from weekday to weekday. We never have school like the same hours each day.
Similar to the United States, where it's a pretty regular schedule from day to day.
Yeah, you always get out at 3, which is really nice in my opinion.
Yeah, and the vacation schedules are pretty similar too. You get like a Christmas break and a Easter break, that kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. We have more vacations over the year, and they're kind of like spread out. We, of course, being a very Christian country, we have no school on those holidays like Easter and, yeah, those kind of things. We always break during the holidays.
Okay, that's good. And in terms of like sports and clubs, that kind of thing, that's pretty prevalent in the United States school system. Is it also prevalent in Germany, the sports and clubs?
Oh, no, not at all. That's not a big thing in Germany. We don't have school teams or school competitions. So all the extracurricular stuff is, you kind of have to figure that out outside of school. So there's not as much of a focus on community as in the United States.
Okay, so you pretty much do your schoolwork, go home, and participate in clubs and that kind of thing outside of the school system itself.
Yeah, that is not being organized over the school. That is kind of more like a community in terms of what your town offers, kind of thing.
So Germany has quite a few immigrants right now. Do you know anything about how immigrants are taught in Germany, the new immigrants that come in? Do they have like an English or a German language program?
Oh, yes. Of course, we kind of had a shortage of teachers because of the number of immigrants, but that is being organized by now, I think. And yeah, they have to take German classes, and they're being taught, basic things such as morals and, the German way of living in a way. Of course, also things like women's rights and, just cultural differences that they did not experience in their home country or did not have. So I think that is being organized fairly well for the challenge that was. So, yeah.
Do they attend separate schools, or would they attend integrated schools?
So the children are being taught in regular elementary school, or they get into kindergarten with the regular German kids, and the adults have separate German classes for adults specifically.
I see. And so what about students with disability? Are they taught in separate schools as well, or are they taught integrated into the mainstream?
That really depends. So education in Germany is a federal state matter. So there is a special school for students with mental disabilities or students with physical disabilities, but we also try to integrate some of them into the regular school system, which I think is really good, because that way, it's not this whole segregation thing, and I think it can be beneficial for both sides. And for example, in my school, there was a girl who was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't attend any other of the schools simply because they didn't have an elevator, and that was the only reason she would have to go to another school. And that was, of course, very unfortunate. And luckily, when they built my school, they integrated an elevator so that people like her could go there.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. So when you think about your German education and your education in the United States, What would you like to see the United States integrate that's part of the German system that currently isn't here in the United States? What do you like about the German education system that you think should be a part of our system?
Well, I think the German system puts much more money into education, and we also have a bigger focus on general education. Also, at least in my school, it was possible to focus on a specific subject path that you want to pursue. For me, it was social sciences. For other, they can put an emphasis on math or physics by the time that you're 16, and I think that is really good, and it can also be done easily in the United States. Meanwhile, I think that the community aspect of the United States school system is really good because in my experience in Germany, it's like we go to school, we talk, we have our school friends, and then we aren't really spending time or with a lot of people from school outside of school. So I think that is something the US should really stick to. Yeah.
Is the idea of community. Can you think of an example of where the community played an important role in your life as you went to school here? Is there a specific example that you can share with us?
Well, let me think. I didn't think of that question. I guess it was just, people being generally more open because they don't see school only as a place they go to learn, but also to socialize. And I think that's more like a general attitude.
I see.
Yeah.
And so you think that the education in the United States should be broader and cover a wider diversity of topics, educational topics, than currently is covered in the United States, that Germany has a broader curriculum?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And of course, in Germany, we have a huge emphasis on history, which I think is really important. We have to understand where we come from in order to understand where we are now. So I think that was very beneficial in terms of my German education. And now that I walk into college classes, it's like sometimes the professor just assumed that the students don't know anything, which I think it's a problem about the high school system, that it's very superficial in some terms. And in Germany, our teachers expect more from us, but also we learn a lot more, and I think the outcome is a little bit higher.
I see. And so you talked a little bit about the fact that really at the end of elementary, decisions are made for kids to go into specialties. They're going to go into special colleges or technical colleges. So do you think that in Germany there's an effort to provide a wider education to the young children because they realize there will be specialization later on?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And it's also it's possible to, move up in the school system, or the teachers realize, okay, maybe this kid is, basically better or would be better off in a higher school. But it's not the system is not as fluctuant, and that it's being changed at the moment. I
see. And can you describe a little bit about how kids are moved into different areas at different grade levels? For example, that fourth grade transition versus a high school transition, that there's some pretty important decision points within the German system where kids move in different directions?
Sorry, I didn't understand that question.
We talked a little bit about how fourth grade is a really important grade level.
Oh, yeah.
And the end of high school as well. And there's certain testing that occurs that kind of drive where kids go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you describe that system a little bit?
Well, yeah, of course. In Germany, there is not much standardized testing or multiple choice tests. We don't do that really. So we have that focus on critical and analytical thinking. So we produce our own tests or texts, and we write our own things, and we don't really do this multiple choice thing. And I think that's very beneficial. And in fourth grade, your grades over the whole year count. So not only one final test that you take at the end of the year, and the exams are very much spread over the whole school year, not just midterms and finals. So I think that's also good because you don't have that one time of the year where everything is really hard and there's a lot of pressure upon you.
And do you get to see the criteria that you're expected to meet at different grade levels? So it's very clear as to what the expectation is for performance, what you should know and be able to do at the end of, let's say, a grade level, or is that more darker or opaque for you? Is it clear?
Well, I guess it really depends on the teacher how clear he makes it, but most of the times it's very clear. You have the student learning outcome, and most students also, they see throughout the year whether or not they're going to meet that criteria or not, or we get feedback and we get oral grades so we can keep up with our performance, and we are not totally surprised when we don't pass the final.
I see. And so what is the big deal about fourth grade? What is the big decision point at fourth grade for German students?
So depending on your GPA of your, final record, it's being decided whether or not you can go to the first kind of secondary school, or the second or the third. And only when you go to the first kind, you can actually study at university. So you have to get your diploma called A-levels in order to get into a university. Yeah.
And what about then at the high school for, let's say, the senior year? Is that another decision point at which you would move into high school? Or into college?
Sorry, we only have that secondary. So we have elementary school, and then in my case, from 5th to 12th grade, it's the secondary school. So that's all being taught in one school.
I see. But there is another exam or decision point at the end of that point, whether you get into university or not, correct? Or do you automatically just go into university?
Oh, no, you have to take the big final A-levels. Yeah.
I see.
That consists of 5 exams in math, in my case, math, English, history, political science, and English. So, yeah.
And is this a typical of the EU, or is this unique to Germany? I don't know if you know what happens in the other countries, but is this similar in other European countries as well?
Oh yeah, myself, I was in France in 7th grade for 6 weeks to study abroad there, and they have a pretty similar system, except for the fact that they just make this decision that we make after 4th grade, they make after 6th grade, which I think is better, and it's actually really similar in most of European countries.
I see. And so, Lydia, if you had to make a choice, one system or the other, let's say that you had to pick that you're either going to go to the school in the United States or you're going to go to school in Germany, which system would you elect to participate in?
Well, for now I'm here and I really like the American system, but I wouldn't want to miss my German education just for the fact that I think it made me a very mature and somewhat, just intellectually curious person, which I really appreciate about that. And I don't think I would have come here if it weren't for that kind of background. So I think both system can learn a lot from each other, and I think I'm really lucky that I get to study in both.
So that was very, very well put. And even though I tried to force you into a system, you didn't take the bait. So that's very good. So obviously you're learning a lot about communication because you answered that one very well. So thank you. What process do you think if students here, like you said that many European students participate in international study. Let's say that there are students listening in on the program. How can they get involved in participating in an international program?
Well, I think some high schools actually offer that, and I think you can actually just talk to your counselor and see what kind of options you have. But I think the best time to do it is actually after high school, before college. I learned that a lot of American students actually it's normal that to go straight to college after high school, while in Europe we all take our gap year and we travel the world or do something else. And I think that's probably the best time to do that. But I mean, to actually go to school in another country is great. But if you don't want to do that and you want to be more free or put an emphasis on traveling, that's definitely your best time to do that, in my opinion.
That's very good, very good. So as we move to end the program today, what are some other issues or ideas you think would be good for our program to pursue moving forward in the future? Do you have any ideas that students might be interested in, ideas or issues that we should consider?
Maybe, it's a good question. It kind of hit me by surprise there.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole student government thing. That's also a very big thing in Germany, students being able to make decisions on themselves or within their school. So that's actually one of the things that we can do as a community in our schools. And I think we need to hear our, youngest or young people's thoughts on, matters or like integrate them in the decision-making process when it's about their school.
That's an excellent idea. And just following up on that, do students actually have any power in Germany to affect change or to affect how things are run within the schools?
It's actually like this trio of students, parents, and teachers, of course. But there's more of a community based, or we have student government, and each grade has their representative, and we have a student body president, so they have much more power also over like the little things. For example, how are we going to use this room, or what are we going to paint on our walls, and all these little things that actually matter to students. And so I think that's really good, and to make them or let them learn how to make decisions on their own.
And are students prepared for democratic life in Germany as well? Do you come out of the German system knowing how to vote and how to do other democratic activities?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, that's kind of like ambivalent because, of course, we know how to vote, when to vote. We also get educated on the different parties. And so I think that is very good. But also, being not having that much of the focus on community, we don't really know how to get involved into actually, politics our own, or especially local politics and clubs and all that things that all these things that are very important in the US are not as important in Germany because we don't really know anything about that. But for our, civic duty in terms of voting, yes, that we know. Yeah.
And do you think did you find that similar in the United States as well, that there was an equal emphasis on student voice and student preparation for democratic life?
No, unfortunately, I didn't really think so because, of course, those are very, divided times these days in the US. But also I think politics is kind of like a sensitive matter for a lot of adults. So students aren't really being asked, okay, what do you think, or what's your opinion on this or that in class, or we don't really discuss that as much as in Germany, for example.
Interesting. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have for our program today, Lydia. Thank you so much for being our first guest ever on the program and being so generous with your time and helping us to prepare for today's broadcast. You are just great. Our first programs will be pre-recorded and will be used as catalysts to engage more students in sharing ideas and issues that they would like to discuss on our program. Students should visit our websites at kcxu.org and sipbigpicture.com to share their ideas and to suggest future student guests to participate in the program. Future programs will be live, and we'll also try and include a call-in component as well. A big thanks to our manager, Manu Martinez, for facilitating our Student Voice in San Jose program today. Our next program will explore education with our Hispanic students in the San Jose Unified System, and we hope that you'll be able to join us. See us on all of our future programs. This is your host from KCXU 92.7 FM on your dial saying goodbye for now.